spoiler phobes, you have stumbled into a storm of spoilers, a Star Wars special where we are covering the second season of the Disney Plus streaming series Andor in 4 chunks, just like they dropped on the streaming service. This week, we will kick it all off with episodes 1, 2, and 3 from season 2, but discussion can include content from the Star Wars movies, Star Wars TV shows, Star Wars novels, Star Wars comics, and video games, maybe, you know, the Star Wars universe. That section of the podcast we call the calm, and we also have a section we will call the storm. As in a storm of spoilers, it'll probably be shorter than usual these episodes, but we could discuss the future 9 episodes of Andor Season 2 to come, and might expand to include rumors and hearsay of upcoming Star Wars projects. We're not ruining, we're enriching, and we're taking down the Empire. Hello, I am Jedi Master Dave Gonzalez, though I was not given a spot on the council.
And I'm Jedi Knight Neil Miller, and I'm just waiting outside for these Jedi Masters to finish up. And welcome back to a storm of spoilers. Dave, you've got housekeeping for the Star Wars era.
That's right. We get to switch off a little bit here. I will be in the storm seat here in Star Wars, as you might have heard on this feed over the past week. We like talking about Star Wars here on Storm of Spoilers. I wouldn't consider Neil a novice or a call me, and obviously we've all seen Andor Season 2 because we, like you, can stream the entire thing right now on Disney Plus.
That's why I chose Jedi Knight and not Padawan, because I've advanced above
You've
Padawan.
advanced. Yes, I think you were definitely capable of being a Jedi Knight and defending the honor of the Jedi. You might be watching us on YouTube now. We are releasing some YouTube content, not only from Storm of Spoilers, but from our Patreon podcast, Dave and Neil's Pop Culture Adventure. If you head to youtube.com/@DA7EANDNEIL, you will find us there. If you are listening to us on YouTube, you can also subscribe to us wherever fine podcasts are found as a Storm of Spoilers. You could get in touch with the show by sending us a raven or an email at stormofspoilers@gmail.com. We are looking for any thoughts you have about Star Wars. If for some reason you think it's a stormy thought, you could put storm in the title of the email, and that way only I will open it. But I feel like everything's game in the wide world of Star Wars. And I think more interestingly, I would like to hear how Star Wars has maybe affected your life in the past year. I don't know about you, Neil, but I saw a lot of Andor themed protest signs this last weekend in America. And I was reminded of all the Princess Leia resist signs that I saw in 2016. So it seems like here in America, we like using the language of Star Wars to talk about our politics occasionally. Sure. And maybe Andor has more to say to us this year than it does in any other years. I would love to hear from you listeners, stormofspoilers@gmail.com. We would also love for you to send us a review or to leave us a review in the Apple Podcast app, which still for some reason controls algorithms over there, or you could comment and review us on Spotify. If you leave us a 5-star rating, you are free to say whatever you want. It is the stars that are important to us, and then we will read as people the actual comment. For instance, here's one from James. I've been listening to the pod and in various iterations since 2017. I'll admit I got lost during the lost years. We all did. It was during the pandemic. Back to the email. But I've mainly kept up outside of that. Dave, Neil, and Joanna were such a great combo, and it always felt like I was hanging out with my friends while we were listening. My only complaint is that Neil was not on the last episode of Trial by Content, and we never got to listen to his goodbye to Joanna. It's akin to The Last of Us, where we need the experience of the final porch scene between Neil and Joanna, where she finally tries to forgive him for claiming Big as a body swap movie, and he could tell her when she discusses body swap movies at the Ringer, I hope you do a little better than me.
First of all, I don't have to say goodbye to Joanna. Who knows? Well, I assume that we'll be on a podcast together again in the future. So, but I do appreciate that this fan fiction thing about us review stops here and doesn't go to, like, you know, what happens to Neil the day after the porch scene in this scenario.
I hope you do a lot better than me. in your opinions about body swap movies, and then oh no.
Anyway, no, this is a great one. I appreciate that. We, RIP trial by content, but we shall have our porches in the future.
Yeah. Who would be the Abby in that situation? Lindsay Lohan being like, my career peaked in a body swap movie, debatably, and here you are, just giving it up to Tom Hanks, multiple Oscar winner Tom Hanks.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a fun show Neil and I did called Tribe by Content. You can still find that online if you want to search for it. If you want to know what we're doing here on this podcast, we are going to be going through the entirety of Andor as season 2. So a new Star Wars special will drop every Wednesday as we approach the Battle of Yavin. I thought that was a good joke. Turns out I'm gonna have to explain what that means to Neil here in a little bit. If you would like to hear
I mostly
more,
know what it means, I think.
Oh, I mean, now. If you like this dynamic and want to see more of our evolving facial hair throughout the year, you could join us at patreon.com/DaveandNeil. That's DA7EANDNEIL for more of this type of content. Plus bonuses from all our previous seasons of Storm of Spoilers, including like the Lost series. Neil and I rewatched Twin Peaks and then watched Twin Peaks The Return, I think, for the first time. Or Neil watched all of Twin Peaks for the first time.
Yes.
And then we both watched The Leftovers for the first time just recently. And we are currently rewatching the show Hannibal, which Neil is watching for the first time. And I am just loving that network television. If any of that sounds interesting, head over to patreon.com/DaveandNeil for details on how you can join us and at what levels. Anyway, without any further ado, before we get into this week's Andor episodes, I have a returning segment for you, Star Wars trivia, like we did in our previous Star Wars specials, but I need somebody to face off against Neil here. So let's go take a look at that. And welcome to the trivia section. I have one of my podcast family here. Katey Rich is joining us from the Ankler and Fighting in the War Room. Hello, Katey.
Hello, podcast family indeed. And here we're all family.
Thank you for joining us and being our first subject of this trivia round. Here's how it's going to work for these Andor trivia sections. I'm going to bring in a guest to face off against Neil. I have come up with questions for both of them. The goal is, at the end of these 4 episodes, the cumulative guest score to beat Neil. So we have categories that not only I think will help Katey get the answers right, but you each have individualized questions. And sometimes Neil's are a tad bit harder. And then, Katey, there'll be ways to sabotage Neil. We'll figure this out as we go along. We have 5 rounds for you guys today. Let's kick it out off with round number 1. This is droid voices. These are questions about the droids that appear in Star Wars and the people who voiced them. You each have 5 questions, which means you each have the possibility of earning 5 points in this round. We will start with Katey. Katey. Anthony Daniels voiced this droid who has had his mind erased at least twice.
Okay, that's C-3PO.
That is C-3PO. Good job,
Yay,
Katey.
thank you for
1
trusting
point.
me to get one right. I'm on the board.
Neil, J.J. Abrams voiced this droid that didn't like to be touched.
Oh, shit. What was that little guy's name? He has a little cone head face. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know this one. I can see him in my mind. He's a little
He's, no, thank you.
Yeah. Shit. What was that little dude's name? I have no idea.
That is Dio.
Dio. Damn it. It was
Poor
right
Dio.
there.
So 1-0, Katey Rich. Katey. Ben Schwartz was among the performers to contribute to this droid's voice for The Force Awakens.
I did not know that, but it's got to be BB-8, right?
That is BB-8.
See, now that Neil's questions are so hard, I feel
screwed.
like I'm really being graded on a curve here.
Katey, your points will be added to our future guests, so you're just setting a strong base here.
That's what I aim for.
Neil, David Tennant voiced this character in animation before voicing the actual droid in Ahsoka.
Oh my god. This one I should know as well. Like, I can see the droid in my mind. I'm better with faces than I am with names, apparently.
Excellent for a podcast medium.
This is not Chopper, right?
This is not Chopper. This is Hu Yang.
Oh, Hu Yang.
This is going swimmingly. Katie.
Okay.
Droid rights advocate and possible Lando lover L337 was voiced by this Fleabag actress.
Oh, I would never have known the name, but it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I can get the actor.
That is Phoebe Waller-Bridge. We have some things here that are actor focused because I know Katie might do a little bit better on that. Neil, Lucasfilm creative Dave Filoni voices this droid and has memorably gotten it to say, "What the fuck?"
Is that Chopper?
That is Chopper. Neil's on the board.
Yay!
All right, Katie. Puppeteer Dave Chapman worked on Rogue One and The Last Jedi, but finally got to voice this droid who loves the Andor family for Andor seasons 1 and 2. What is the droid's name?
Oh, that little guy. It ends with emo. Is it B2 emo?
It is B2 Emo.
Oh, yay!
Katie with the perfect score so far.
Wow.
She does know droid names.
She does know.
I feel like
droid
I'm
names.
the one being hustled here.
If he didn't have emo at the end because he's such an emotional little guy, I would never have gotten it, which is presumably what they were going for.
This one's pretty great. Neil, voice actor Steven Stanton based this Rebels droid on Alan Rickman, and it gets its name from Rebels producer Athena Yvette Portillo.
What? Oh my God. This one actually is really hard because I've never seen that cartoon.
I know for a fact you have not seen this episode of Rebels.
I have no idea.
The character's name is AP5, Athena Portillo number 5.
Yeah, I could have at least guessed.
So, last question of droids for Katie. Katie, Alan Tudyk plays this droid who had his backstory altered in Andor Season 2.
This would be K2SO, my other droid name that I know from Andor.
Yeah, Katey Rich with all 5 points.
Wow.
Neil Miller.
Mm-hmm.
What is Cal Kestis's droid companion's name in the Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games?
Oh God. You know that I haven't played those games.
This is so mean.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yes, right? This is what the people want.
Don't worry, I'll get my revenge somewhere down the line. Like the Sith, I'm just laying in wait, planning.
Any guesses, Neil?
I have no idea.
This is BD1. He is adorable. You should definitely look him up.
What I should do for this segment is just guess 2 letters and a number. And at least then I'll be close.
Well, guess what? Segment's over. You could have come up with that strategy much earlier. So after round 1, Katie is ahead 5-1, which leads us to round 2, lightsabers. This is going to be a visual round for those of us that are joining us on video. For those of us that are listening on the podcast, I'm going to describe the color of the blade and a little bit about the hilt. But Katie, I'm going to give you 5, and then Neil, I'm going to give you 5. That means you have a possibility of 5 points each. Here we go. Katey Rich, lightsaber number 1 has a red blade. I know it's a little bit hard to tell, and has a sort of silver hilt with some like black vertical rubbery grip things at the bottom. Whose lightsaber is that?
The picture is not loading for me. So I'm doing as well.
The picture's not loading.
I know it was loading when we tried it before, and now that it's really time, it's not going very well. But can I guess just based on the description that you gave for it's me and the people listening on audio?
Sure,
together?
you could get. Okay, I will do this. I will do this for you if you can't see it.
Okay.
Attempted that the lightsaber's gone. This lightsaber first appeared in Star Wars: A New Hope, and it has a red blade.
All right, I was gonna guess Darth Vader anyway, because of the red blade. So I'm going with that.
Smart. All right. I hope that eventually Katie can see these, but if not, I'm going to try again. Katie, the second lightsaber has a blue blade. It has a hilt that sort of looks like a camera flash contraption from the late 70s. It also first appeared in Star Wars: A New Hope.
I still can't see it. I'm really enjoying your descriptions of them, though, so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm just going to guess Luke Skywalker.
Oh, very, very close. Luke Skywalker does wield it, but this is Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. I don't know
in A New Hope?
you seeing that would have helped you with that particular thing. I think. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Wait, we see Anakin Skywalker in A New Hope. This is new information to me.
We don't, but old Ben gives Luke his father's lightsaber, and that is this lightsaber, the blue lightsaber.
Okay.
Luke doesn't actually get his own lightsaber till Return of the Jedi. Katey, this red-bladed lightsaber has a crossguard hilt and looks very mean.
That would be Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
That would be a Kylo Ren's lightsaber. I am loving this. And also, Neil's going to be able to see the photos, but also might not do as well. I'm very happy with where this is going.
We're very, very quickly running out of lightsabers that I recognize. So,
Katey, while trying to explain things to you, I did bring this lightsaber up. This one has a green blade. It was originally supposed to have a blue blade, but then George Lucas realized a blue lightsaber against a bright blue sky in Return of the Jedi wasn't going to work, so this lightsaber's blade was turned to green.
I don't think I would have gotten this if you hadn't just done this. So I'm going to say it's Luke Skywalker's that he gets in Return of the Jedi.
It is Luke Skywalker.
Yay!
So that's beneficial. All right, Katey, last one for you. This is a red-bladed lightsaber that has a blade on both sides.
oh, come on.
I, too, was a teenager in 1999. I think that is Darth Maul.
That is Darth Maul. So Katey, even though she cannot see the images like you podcast listeners, has increased her lead 9-1. Let's see if Neil could catch up. Neil, you can see these lightsabers.
I sure
which
can.
Might be able to help you. Here's lightsaber number 1. It has a purple blade.
Oh, that's Mace Windu.
That is Mace
I
Windu's
knew
Number
that
one
one
Jedi.
too.
lightsaber.
I got one of Neil's. Yay!
Hey.
Mace Windu lives.
Mace Windu does live. Neil, this is your second lightsaber. It is tiny and green.
Tiny and green? That's got to be Yoda.
That is Yoda's tiny little lightsaber.
Yeah, from
that
Attack
made
of the Clones when he's
It
flipping
also
around.
made a surprise appearance in The Mandalorian when it was offered to Grogu. I don't know how it got from the Senate in Revenge of the Sith to in the possession of Luke Skywalker, but that's a story for another Star Wars. Number 3, it is a blue lightsaber that has both silver and black on its pommel grip, and it has some of that ribbing that Luke Skywalker's has, but this is not Luke Skywalker's lightsaber.
Is this Rey's lightsaber?
This is not Rey's lightsaber. This is General Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber.
Oh, that like from the Kenobi era?
From the Clone Wars era.
Oh, okay.
All right, Neil, the penultimate one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a red-bladed lightsaber that has a curved hilt.
Ooh, who has that one? Is that a General Grievous lightsaber?
That is not a General Grievous lightsaber. General Grievous collects lightsabers. This is a Count
he probably
Dooku
has one
lightsaber.
like that. Dooku. I was trying to think of who are the other Sith dudes.
All right, Neil, final lightsaber hilt for you. This green bladed lightsaber has mostly black ribbing on its hilt and a big red button.
Green lightsaber. I mean, I don't think it could be Luke Skywalker's because that's the other one that we just saw.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has a green lightsaber? Is it Ahsoka?
It is not Ahsoka. This is Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn.
Damn it. Oh, I'm so sorry, Liam Neeson.
You should be. All right, after 2 rounds, Katey leads 9-3, which brings us to a different type of round. This one is called Draft or Pass. I am going to give you each a list of 6 characters. Katey, if you think that character is a Jedi, you draft it. Your goal at the end is to have a team full of Jedi. If you don't think that character is a Jedi, you pass and it goes on Neil's team. And Neil's goal is to have a team full of non-Jedi. You will get points by positive points for each one you're supposed to have and negative ones for each ones you're not supposed to have. So you can pass as a form of aggression if you want. But we'll start this out nice and easy. Katey, you want to keep the Jedi.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Right.
The fact that you invited me to do this, saying like you watched Andor, so you know Star Wars now, and there are famously no Jedi in Andor. It is a little rude, but I'm gonna do my best.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I might have brought you here under false pretenses, but Katey, what do you do with Yoda?
I do believe that Yoda is a Jedi. I will draft him. Right, I keep him.
Yep, keep the Jedi. All right, so Katey's got Yoda. Katey, what do you do with Balin's skull?
I have no idea what that is. I'm going off of the George Lucas, like, bad guys have bad guy names theory that he's not a Jedi. I'm going to give him to Neil.
All right, Neil gets Balin skull. Katey, Vanestra Row.
I don't know who that is either. Vanestra?
Vanestra Row.
Draft. Why not? I don't know who that is, but maybe they're on Ahsoka.
All right, Katey's keeping Vanestra Row. Katey, Kelleran Beck. This Jedi is played by Ahmed Best. Oh, I said he was a Jedi. Screw it.
Is that Jar Jar Binks' new name or something? Is Ahmed Best going to do a different one?
Yeah, they let him come back as a Jedi. He saves Grogu from the Jedi temple.
Great. I'm gonna draft him.
Katey gets an extra point.
I'm gonna draft him. Thanks.
Good.
Amazing.
You're welcome. 2 more, Katey. C.O. Bibble.
Pass. I don't know. That sounds like somebody who's selling things to people who that don't need it.
I love it. And then final one, Finis Valorum.
Valorum sounds valorous and good, so I'm gonna draft. I'm doing some real etymology to find my way through this.
I love it. Neil, it is your turn.
Sure.
Draft or passed, Khmer.
And I'm trying to get the non-Jedis.
You're trying to get the non-Jedi. So they can't be Sith or Force users that are not part of the Jedi, but they can't be Jedi.
Okay. Khmer. Not entirely sure who that is.
Did you watch The Acolyte?
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to draft.
All right. He's going to draft Neil Kai Adimundi.
From what? Star Wars?
He's definitely from Star Wars. I think he first appears in The Phantom Menace, but he most recently appeared in The Acolyte.
I'm going to pass. I think that's a Jedi.
Kai Adimundi goes to Katey. Neil Wat Tambor.
What? From where?
He first appeared in Attack of the Clones.
I'm going to pass.
All right. He's going to pass. Wat Tambor goes to Katey. Neil Jaro Tapal.
I'm just going to go with my gut and draft.
All right. Neil's going to draft.
This is probably getting so bad.
Neil Barris Offee.
Barris Offee? Listen, I don't appreciate how this segment of the game also seems like one of those segments where you just make up names. Because these can't be real. Where did we see this character?
Barris Offee. Oh, I mean, she has a big part in the Clone Wars. I believe you also see her in The Phantom Menace. She's definitely in the prequel era.
But in the Clone Wars, a series that I've not seen. I'm going to draft. I'm thinking
You're
bad guy.
Draft. All right. Neil Lor San Tekka first appeared in The Force Awakens.
I'm going to pass. I think that's a Jedi.
All right. So, Katey's
now
names
I regret that.
are Yoda, a Jedi, Vanestra Row, a Jedi, Kelleran Beck, a Jedi, Finis Valorum, Chancellor Valorum is not a Jedi from the prequels. Kai Mundi, given to by Neil, is a Jedi, back up to 3. And then Wat Tambor, not a Jedi. Lor Santeca, not a Jedi. So Katey comes out with 1 at the end of that.
Ooh, okay.
Neil.
This is where I catch up. This is where my comeback begins.
Neil, you got Balin Skull, not a Jedi when we meet him in Ahsoka.
Sure.
C.O. Bibble, politician, not a Jedi. Kamir, Sith acolyte, not a Jedi. Jaro Tapal is a Jedi. That is Cal Kestis's mentor in Jedi Fallen Order. And Barriss Offee is a Jedi. So you both came out of that with 1 point. What a way to go here. So it is 10-4 Katey as we head into round 4. This one is called Women of the Galaxy. I'm going to give you a Star Wars project, and you are going to name the actress who is top billed. I will tell you, whichever one of you gets Andor, there are 2 answers for that.
Oh, shit.
So let's start off. Katey, the top billed female actress in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace.
It must be Natalie Portman.
That is Natalie Portman. These are going to make Neil real mad. Katey, the lead actress in Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I believe that has to be Daisy Ridley.
That is Daisy Ridley. Katey, the lead actress of Andor.
You said there's 2. Do I have to name both, or do I just get 1?
Either one will get you the point.
Okay, I'll say Genevieve O'Reilly.
Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma. I would have accepted Adria Arjona since they are in the same amount of episodes. Katey, Rosario Dawson.
Wait, aren't I supposed to get the title, not the actress name?
That's the name of the actress. Oh, you know what?
Who did Rosario Dawson play?
Ahsoka.
Yeah, who did Rosario Dawson play?
Ahsoka. There we go.
That's good. Anyway, I hope you would have gotten that. If you know one, you know the other. This is gonna probably also be easy, but maybe not. Katey, Return of the Jedi.
I hope it's Carrie Fisher.
It is Carrie Fisher. All right. And now the part that's going to make Neil mad after Katey got all 5 points. Neil, season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Oh, Katey Sackhoff.
Katey Sackhoff. Excellent job. Neil, The Acolyte.
Amandla Stenberg.
Amandla Stenberg. Excellent. Here's where Neil gets mad. Neil, Star Wars Outlaws.
Star Wars Outlaws. Shit. I don't know the actor.
But I didn't until I looked it up.
Voices the main character, whose name I totally remember because I played 100 hours of that video game. No, I don't know who the actor is, though.
That is Humberly Gonzalez.
Fascinating.
Yep, pretty great.
Shout out to voice actors.
Very good. Speaking of voice actors, Star Wars Battlefront 2 story mode.
Oh, man. Where's my question about who voiced Yennefer in The Witcher and is also on Andor? That would
Wrong
have been
podcast.
Fun. I have no idea.
That would be Janina Gavankar.
Oh, whose work I know elsewhere.
I mean, she does pop up because she does do the performance capture for the character, so I do occasionally see her in television
I think I follow her on Twitter as well.
And then finally, Neil, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi. That was an animated show.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another voice actor. Or maybe main cast. Did they bring back the main cast for that? Like, would it be Daisy Ridley? Was she in that? No, I don't think so.
I'll give you a hint. The female is Ahsoka.
Oh, is it Rosario Dawson?
It is not Rosario Dawson. It is original voice actor Ashley Eckstein, who has voiced Ahsoka since the Clone Wars show. Neil got an additional 2 points there, which means it is 15-6 in honor of Katey. So we have our final category here. This one's called Crossing Mediums. I'm going to ask a character. You tell me if this character appeared first in animated Star Wars or in live action Star Wars.
Boy.
You'll do okay, Katie. Here we go. Katie Mon Mothma.
She's in Return of the Jedi, or she's in one of the original 3. That's live action.
She is from Return of the Jedi, live action. Katey Rich, Boba Fett.
He's in the originals, so I guess that has to be live action. Is he in the originals? I think he is.
He's in the originals, but he did debut in his animated form in Star Wars The Holiday Special before appearing in Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
So that it. Hey. All right, here's another one. This one's also Andor themed.
Okay.
Bail Organa.
Oh.
Jimmy Smits.
See, like, knowing that there was a holiday special that came out before the prequels is now really changing my entire perspective. But because you just said Jimmy Smits, I'm just going to guess he shows up for the first time in the prequels and it's live action.
He does. He's in Attack of the Clones, but he has more appearances as Jimmy Smits in animated form. Jimmy Smits was just like, yeah.
Oh, good for you. And yet he didn't get to play him in Andor. What a racket.
Yeah, weird scheduling conflict. We're in the Benjamin Bratt, Leia's dad.
He's also very good.
All right, Katie, your final one.
Okay.
He is very good. General Grievous.
I don't really know who that is. I'm gonna say animated. He seems like one of the Star Wars guys who I know exists, but I don't know anything about. Animated. Animated is correct. Yay. He premiered in the Star Wars Clone Wars 2003, now non-canonical animated series. Of course.
So with additional 3 points there, that leaves Katie with 18 points this round. Neil, you have 6, so I don't think you're going to be able to catch up, but let's see how many points you could pick up here.
Okay. Cumulative score. That's what I got to keep in my mind.
Yeah, you're playing the long game. Count Dooku.
Count Dooku. I feel like he's also one that started in an animated series.
He debuts in Star Wars Attack of the Clones in live action.
Oh my God.
Neil, Aura Singh, the bounty hunter.
Aura Singh? I'm going to guess animated.
She appears live action first in Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Funny thing, her concept art has her list as Boba Fett because she's just a hot female bounty hunter.
Oh, okay.
But luckily, she develops a whole character, and then in Solo: A Star Wars Story, we learn that she just has died in between movies. Anyway.
That's tough.
Neil, did you watch Andor? Did you watch Ahsoka?
Yeah.
All right. So you remember Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
Sure.
Has a little child. That child's name is Jason Syndulla. Was that the first time we saw him in live action?
No.
Or did he debut animated?
Oh, that's a good question. Was he around during the animated series, or did he come after? I'm going to say animated. He is, but only because he's in the epilogue to Star Wars Rebels in the very last episode.
Okay. But I'll give it to you. All right, Neil, final one.
Okay.
This is a clone trooper. This is Commander Cody. He has the yellow accented armor.
Ooh, this is a good one. I feel like this one's got to be animated first. I know he does show up in live action.
This one is animated first in that Star Wars The Clone Wars 2003 non-canon series. So here at the end of our game, Katey Rich definitely wins round 1, 18-8. But Neil, your 8 points will carry forward, and Katie's 18 will be added to the cumulative guest score at the end of all 4 episodes. Sure. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. Tell the people here where they can find you around the internet.
Well, they can hear you and me on Fighting in the War Room, the podcast that is still going strong, even though we're all old and tired now. And I have another podcast called Prestige Junkie at the Ankler, and I talk about Emmys and do interviews with people. And I don't know when this is coming out, but we're going to do a War of the Worlds at 20 flashback soon, which feels like much more of this podcast alley. So listen for that, if nothing else.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the calm to talk about Andor Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3. We are back to talk about Andor Season 2. This week, we are talking about episodes 1 through 3. 1 year later, Sagrona Teema and Harvest. They were all 3 written by Tony Gilroy and all 3 directed by Ariel Kleiman. And they all take place together in BBY4. So we are calling this podcast a BBY4 special. It stands for Before the Battle of Yavin and Neil.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
Yes. Neil was like, because we have a category coming up, BBY MVP, which is just who we think the MVP is over this batch of 3 episodes. And I assumed that we were all using the terms BBY the same way. But Neil, it stands for Before the Battle of Yavin. It is fairly new. I think it was just like a fan thing to try to date certain canon events, and that eventually was used and adopted by Disney Star Wars canon. So I believe Disney was like the first to use it around like 2014, and I know it wasn't sort of officially used until Star Wars: The Galactic Atlas in 2016. That was teasing some Solo stuff, because Solo is another project that took place BBY, or Before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay. And the Battle of Yavin, just to be clear, is when Luke did his thing blowing up the Death Star the first time.
Correct, because he is circling the moon Yavin 4, which we will spend a lot of time on in these 3 episodes of Andor. We just think about it as a jungle moon in this episode and isn't revealed to sort of be Yavin until the end of Sagrona Teema.
Nice.
But everything comes back to this. This is the planet that in Rogue One everybody is dispatched from. You could see the Mayan-like temples in this jungle. But we are here in BBY 4, so 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, when Rogue One takes place, because it's vague spoilers for Rogue One, but why are you watching this show if you haven't watched Rogue One? Leads directly into Star Wars: A New Hope, and therefore the Battle of Yavin. So it's a cool thing to use as a marker in Star Wars time, because not only does it mark like the beginning of the rebellion in earnest, but it marks the first Star Wars movie in the same sort of like imaginary timeline. So we'll be spending 1 episode of Star Wars spoilers in each BBY year, just like Andor does. And I think the cool thing about how this was released is quick background, in case you don't know. This was going to be a 5-season series, Andor, when it was initially sold. A lot of Star Wars content was sort of sold with the idea that Disney Plus was going to be this huge access point for Disney content. And then when The Mandalorian came along and did well, they were like, what else can we do to make some more fantastic series? And it was like, why not 5 seasons of Andor? Season 1 of Andor did fairly well with the critics, didn't do necessarily that well with ratings, but did provide sort of a prestige level of Star Wars that Disney wanted more of. So they greenlit season 2 before all of season 1 had been aired. And then in the conceptualizing of season 2, Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna realized that if they were doing this at this pace for 5 seasons, it would be something like 12 years, and Diego Luna would be like an old man pretending like he was leading into Rogue One. So they decided to take their 5-year plan and condense it. And so season 2 is 3 episodes, each in what you would have been like 1 season's worth of story, lightly. They obviously developed this story to work in this long of a season, but that is why we're sort of getting batch releases and 3-episode sort of collections that will become this Andor thing. So Neil, wild release model.
Sure.
As somebody who watches a lot of television, what did you think of how Andor was released here for season 2?
I mean, listen, I don't want to shame people for experimenting. However, this is annoying. We were just, I feel like, talking a week or 2 ago on the Adventure Pod about the upcoming Stranger Things release, where they're going to release like 3 who knows how long episodes, like once a month for the last 2.5 months of the year. And I feel like the more we encourage stuff like this, the worse this is going to get, where it's like, this could have just been a 12 episode series of television that aired on 12 different weeks. I guess they've done a lot of good light propagandizing to make us believe that this is a cool, fun thing that they totally planned from the beginning. But come on, man, just release it in 12 episodes, Disney. I don't. Again, also with its show like Andor, it is a show that inspires a great deal of discourse, and I feel like this is always the point that I come back to when it's a show that could be better week to week, spread out over as many weeks as possible, is that you capture more of the media attention cycle, right? Like instead of doing 4 podcast episodes, we're doing 12 podcast episodes, right? And I think that for whatever reason, Hollywood has now become so ingrained with this idea that you have to catch the lightning in the bottle very quickly if anything is going to be successful, right? Opening weekend box office, full on dumps to streaming of these shows. And I think that is counterintuitive to what the fans would actually enjoy the most. But, it's still a good show.
I mean, if it were week to week and it started on April 22nd, we would still be watching Andor. Right. Which I think would make for a lot of, again, like I was saying, interesting times this year in a certain part of the world to be returning to Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah.
But also,
I would much rather have spent 12 weeks talking about Andor than, it sort of feeling like it flew by. Now, granted, we're covering it afterwards, so I wasn't like as locked in to watching it when it first aired, but I think I would have been if it were spread out a little bit more.
I mean, it was also at a tough time because so number one, probably realistic answers to why they batch released this is they got it close enough to like Emmy season to maybe get some eyeballs. Sure. But also they don't mind burning it off necessarily because statistically, if you look at like the streaming numbers, Andor season 2 did pretty well, but it's doing pretty well like now. It wasn't necessarily doing well when it aired, which was essentially pseudo sweeps season now with the way various television seasons organized. We were watching The Last of Us, but also every Tuesday I had to sit down and watch 90 minutes of Andor because I wanted to, but maybe people aren't as intense as me. So I do think part of the reason that the streaming numbers weren't initially there is you have to watch like 90 minutes a week to sort of stay up to date. And if you miss one of those, all of a sudden it's not just 90 minutes a week, but it's 2 batches of those that you're behind. Mm-hmm. And like at that point you're halfway behind. So why not just wait? And I think it sort of disincentivizes watching things again, which led to, I believe, a solution that I saw some people talking about that probably wouldn't have helped them with Emmys, but I do think would have helped them with hype if they wanted to release this way, which is I think they should have done 4 little streaming only movies, but promoted them as 4 little movies, which leads me, I believe, to what our first corner is going to be, because as I was filling out our various corners and awards for this podcast, this was the one that gave me the most trouble because I was trying to take all of the plots encompassed in these 3 episodes and distill it down to a title. If I were to title this movie Star Wars blank or blank a Star Wars story, what would I title this specific movie? And the reason I want to be kicking off the podcast with this is it really is something that I tried to apply to all 3 storylines. So, for instance, Neil, I will try to talk you into why this is, I think, a good title. Okay. I'm going to give it Star Wars Spoils of the Empire. And I was thinking about a lot of things. Basically, this is a peak time for the Empire. These next couple of years are going to see a rebellion forming and some cracks forming in the perception of the Empire. But we all know where this ends, which is they have a planet destroying spaceship that Luke Skywalker has to, blow up with his space wizard. And that, leads to a galactic war. right now we're at the tipping point. We're not quite at the galactic war, but the Empire does have like massive amounts of control. They have enough money to spend on this prototype bomber, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get to lore, for Cassian's storyline. For Bix on the people in Mina Rao, they're doing a census because they need that wheat and they want to know who's working on that wheat. And then for the various discussions of the Empire, be they Sierra, Dedramiro, or but the secret meeting that took place, we are looking at the Empire setting up Gorman because they need to mine it. So these are basically when the Empire is sowing reaping what it has been sowing for these few years. It's been taking over for the Galactic Republic. And I took a little bit of a take from the third episode of this trilogy being called Harvest. And I'm like, okay, so this is the spoils of the Empire. This is as bad as it's going to get for our group of people. Everybody sacrifices something. But over on Chandrila, there's still enough affluence to ignore what's going on, if at all possible. So I believe this is the spoils of the Empire time. It's the fat time for the Empire. I wanted to call it something like the grip of the Empire, or the Shadow of the Empire is a whole series of non-canonical things that I love, but like that sort of idea, like we're all living in the cloud of the Empire. But I also ultimately picked spoils of the Empire because we're on a show called Star Wars Spoilers here, and
nice.
Why not whenever we can.
A little bit of synergy never hurts.
Yeah. What would you title this movie, Neil?
All right. Well, I'm taking it from a slightly different angle. I am sort of starting with the stories that we're seeing of the rebels, and I'm calling it Star Wars: The Lonely Rebellion, which is, a little poetry, but mostly because, a lot of our rebels who are in many ways working together seem to be also very far apart, right? Or they're in situations like the wedding on Chandrila where they are isolated even though they're among a crowd, if that makes sense, right? I feel that way about Mon Mothma. I feel that way about Clea for sure until she leaves and goes back to the hardcore communication shop that she works in.
Or Cinta and Vel, who are in a relationship but being kept apart by the rebellion right now.
And I also do think it applies in some ways to what we see on the Empire side, right? I think of Deirdre as having this own sort of carving her own lonely path within the hierarchy of the Empire and of the ISB, I guess, where it's this idea that she continues to look for the rebels and is not quite getting the job done, and that's ultimately why Krennic is going to put her in charge of this Gorman thing. But everyone's lonely this week on Andor.
Everyone is lonely this week on Andor.
The droid is lonely. Bix is lonely. Everyone is too far apart, even if they're standing right next to each other. So this is the lonely rebellion years. I feel like mine are going to be rebellion focused, but I can't use something like Rise of the Rebellion yet because it's not really doing a whole lot of rising. It's just sort of treading water at the moment.
Yeah, I also like the idea of focusing on the rebellion after this episode, because I do feel like this episode, especially what Cassian goes through with the brigade, like he's like, I've been supplying you at one point, and they're like, oh, who do you work for? And he's like, I'm not comfortable telling you that. So there's not two-way trust. And we obviously see why in the Mon Mothma storyline, this still needs to operate in secret to sort of get some more things in place before it, comes out swinging. And we're going to, eventually see what rises to the occasion of an emergency for this rebellion. But it's just like there's so many small rebellions going on. And maybe I am also more focused on the whole idea in the Star Wars universe that somewhere there's also a Phoenix Squadron that's already been formed with a bunch of characters that, Neil, I don't know if you've watched Star Wars Rebels or not. So did you watch Ahsoka on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Okay, so like the Mary Elizabeth Winstead character Hera and Ezra, the Jedi that you saw bearded up living with the turtle people.
Right. Yep.
Those are all characters from Rebels, and they are first getting together around this same time period in Star Wars, just somewhere else. So there are all these little factions of rebellion that are eventually going to come together. And what I really like about Andor season 2, not spoilers, but teasing, is it really changed my whole perspective on where the quote unquote rebellion started. Because I would have told you it was on Rebels because they're already off having adventures. They have a murderous droid on their side and a whole bunch of things. They are, sort of spies in the Imperial thing. They're a bit further along than where Cassian and Luthen are now, apparently. But I think the, sort of patience that it takes to actually start a rebellion is something we'll be dealing with. So I do like the lowly rebellion, though, because you're right. Everybody here is lonely. What they're sacrificing is the ability to have fun and be carefree, even in situations where they should, like a wedding.
Yep.
So I love it. Let's see if we keep this split going between the Empire and the Rebellion for me. Who was your, before the Battle of Yavin Year MVP, your BBY4 MVP? Who was it, Neil?
Well, I'm giving it to Brasso because, listen, he did a lot of amazing work keeping the crew safe while Cassian was off dealing with the Moron Brigade, who we'll talk about at some point. And then he has this amazing moment with like the foreman guy, right? When they're basically surrounded by stormtroopers and they're communicating without communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And, then he sacrifices the body. It's very sad.
Does.
There's a lot of sad stuff going on the wheat planet. And, I feel like that's just, it's hard to argue that he gets the worst of it. Because, we could talk about what happens to Bix later. But, getting shot by stormtroopers is rough. But he's a hero forever.
Yeah, I agree.
He seems to have been living a pretty good life, though, because he's got like a girlfriend and, they've got good work they find purpose in. So, maybe this time was enough for him in the end.
No, I do like it. Even though he isn't technically part of your titular lonely rebellion because he does find a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. He is, an undocumented refugee worker on the planet who ultimately, sacrifices himself for his friends and family to be safe. I appreciate that. Also, Brasso, just an MVP character from season 1.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In the riot of Ferrix, just taking the stone immediately to a trooper's head.
Yeah, and this
once the riot kicked off.
This as like a early season 2 kill off a character you love is a pretty good one, pretty unexpected one, right? Because like I don't know, I got the sense before this that maybe most of that crew was going to ultimately be safe in this story because they're at least far away. But then the Nazis show up, the space Nazis show up, and all kinds of bad shit happens.
Space Nazis show up for all of you. Let's talk a little bit about Mina Rao while we're here, because we can talk about what happened to Bix / the Space Nazis / the visa-less farmers of it all, the secret skilled workers of it all that are actually, doing the labor in the Mina Rao
perhaps
camps.
the most critically relevant to our real world situations part of this show, at least so far.
I think so. I think it's an interesting place to put them because I think in less politically minded Star Wars stories, they would be hiding out. They would be hiding out and they'd, go to a crowded market with like some sort of huge shawl over their head or mask that they had like put together. The good old Boss Leia from Return of the Jedi strategy of just going of like full disguise, because it is slightly easier to disappear in the Star Wars universe, from my understanding, than how this portrays it. But I do appreciate that Andor keeps it here because it does put together, both of our themes, both that this is how powerful the Empire is now because they're sucking up all of the resources, be it food, be it, any sort of chemical or something like that. And then also your Lonely Rebellion theory in that the more obscure they are, the safer they are. But ultimately, there is no place that's far away enough because that's how far the Empire is spreading at this point. No one wants to live on Dagobah, but they could.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they want to live on this wheat planet, and I don't blame them. It's cool. It's like the Iowa of planets, but like if Iowa had also like aliens and stuff, that would be fun. I would want to live there. It seems all right.
No, I do appreciate that the dudes gets girlfriends. Although I will say, pun intended, Will has an interesting arc over all of these episodes. Here, definitely the one who's like, what's his name? Kroll is like sort of threatens Bix and is like, I'm coming with my troopers in an hour. And Will's like, okay, cool. I just got to go visit Bila real quick and I'm going to leave my speeder out front. Don't worry about it.
Just got to go talk to my girlfriend real quick.
Yeah. So I like that Will has got a crush on Bila the water babe. And I like that they are they're pursuing that crush, even though her parents aren't really into it. I love all that. But in terms of...
I also love the casting of Bila and the eventual lady we meet as her mom. Like, just spot on, straight up. Those two people are related. I'm sure they're both actors who are not related, but holy shit, man. I was like, this is a well-made show. Yeah, casting is on point all the way down.
This is no Sophie Thatcher in the Book of Boba Fett being some sort of mod. This is actual casting. Yeah. Sorry, shots fired. I'm going to do that a lot. Here's the thing, Neil, about Star Wars. I think it's super fun to fight about Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
I think some people might find more safety in that than fighting about things in the real world. However, the key word being find safety in that. I ultimately don't want to cast aspersions on people personally. If you like things that I hate, that's fine. You are also allowed to say them out loud, and I will hopefully shut up and let you say them. But it's not like I'm not a big fan of like the gatekeeping.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that I have to glaze everything as being a brilliant decision. You're casting perfect glazing.
Sure.
Sophie Thatcher in Book of Boba Fett. I might like Sophie Thatcher more than I like her in the part, and I'm going to bring it up. Weird. Yeah.
And Book of Boba Fett, not good. I think fairly universal agreement on it not being good. I've yet to meet someone who wants to go to bat for the Book of Boba Fett was good, actually. We'll see in like 10 years, when it's like 10 years old, if someone wants to reclaim it, but I don't think so.
My hard stance is while Andor was airing, I was trying not to get into any of the arguments that were happening about Andor. And I'm glad that I did, because there are some weird things in Andor. And I do think these episodes have some of the most meandering parts, which is my way of circling around, because you want to talk about the Idiot Brigade. And I would love to hear what was engaging to you about the Idiot Brigade, because it took me a second to find something to latch onto there.
I mean, ultimately, they're just comic relief, right? And I mean, what's funny about that is that they're very silly and discoordinated, and obviously not a match ultimately for Cassian Andor. And I find it to be absolutely hilarious that he just leaves them in the end. Like that one of the big questions we're left with is like, are those guys just going to starve to death? Probably on that planet, because they don't seem to have the appropriate skills to be able to like stay on that planet and survive, right? They're not like killing wildlife, and why are they not foraging for food? These guys, they've progressed so far beyond our natural human instincts that they don't even consider foraging an option at this point. So yeah, I mean, I find most of it to be fairly comedic, and you're can't wait to see how Cassian gets himself out of this pickle situation, because it's like, I mean, I know where Cassian ends up. I've seen Rogue One at the very least.
Yeah.
So I know that like the Moron Brigade isn't going to get him. So it's just more about watching their situation slowly but surely deteriorate due to their own idiocy for the most part.
I agree. I also sort of like what it's saying in the broad Star Wars political spot, because, you know, like I was saying before, there's lots of rebel cells out there, and they don't really start coming together until much later in the timeline. So sort of having these dinguses who, from a certain point of view, to use a Star Wars phrase, could have a certain amount of, like, before they break into dumb factions that are, you know, doing basically rock, paper, scissors over key decisions. I am like, I understand where these people are from. In the weird fog of early rebellion, it's hard to tell what's true. Half of them think that their leader is dead. And the other half thinks that they just need to sort of hold out for long enough till they actually get rescued. And then we know that Cassian is, you know, the hero of this story. But to them, you know, a guy in an Imperial test pilot thing is like, I was supposed to meet Porco there. Good old Porco. I went into this rewatch with one question. Did we ever learn anything about who Cassian was supposed to meet on Yavin 4? And we don't. Porco apparently is dead. They just apparently he didn't get along with this group of rebels. However, now that we've learned that this group of rebels are sort of not the best, maybe Porco did survive. So justice for Porco.
Yeah, who knows?
Can't wait for the Porco short story that tells us how he actually founded Yavin. Speaking of, it's Yavin 4, the moon, which we notice. And this is where Rogue One takes place in a couple of years. Maybe the Mai Brigade is rescued in time.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there are, of course, the Yavinian Dudar. These are the giant animals that attack at the end.
Right.
And Cassian leaves them there. But they are eating something. The rebels eventually make a whole base there. So there have to be ways of staying alive on the planet. Maybe these idiots do stay alive.
Sure. Yeah. For now, they're just a walking metaphor for the fact that perhaps the loneliest part of the rebellion are the parts that are cut off by the fog of lack of information.
Yep. And while we're dealing with the Tony Gilroy family tree of maybe nepotism in Star Wars, Gertis, the head of one of the clans, is played by his son, Sam Gilroy.
All right.
Here in Andor.
I mean, that's fair. If you convince Disney to give you however many millions of dollars to make your show, put one of your family in there. Put many of your family in there for all I care.
Props to at least making him one of the dumb dudes. I wouldn't have had the guts. Like, if my, you know, relative directed a Star Wars and I like read the scripts, I would be like, put me in the wedding. I get to wear like comfortable flowing clothes. I get to pretend to drink wine. I get to dance for a little while. Like,
either that or
definitely
kill
put
me
me there.
Like,
That
just
too.
make me somebody who gets blown up by blaster fire in the background. I would love that. That would be the best. To be like, oh shit, that's me. That guy that just got blown away. That's me. The guy who actually got hit by a stormtrooper.
Anyway, luckily, if we've talked about the brigade of ne'er-do-well rebels, we could circle back to my BBY MVP, because it's about the part of the episode episodes we have yet to talk about. As mine is Dedra Meero. She is a successful Imperial Kinderblock graduate. She was obsessed with finding Axis, which is Luthen's name over in the Empire, but now is given a prominent position on Team Gorman this episode, and does get some face-to-face time with Krennic, where she seems to elevate herself in his eyes. I'm giving it to her here because this seems like the safest place to give Dedra Meero an MVP without getting into some morally gray territory. And I'm not against the morally gray territory.
This is her at her most, I guess, relatable.
Yeah, because she gets delivered a W at work sort of by nature of having worked hard before. And then she gets a W in her life that she, you know, finally gets to rescue poor Cyril, who sort of rescued her at the end of last season. But Cyril's main battlefield is with his mother, whereas, you know, Dedra has a bigger game going on at the Empire. But I do love her arc through these first 3 episodes, and I appreciate not only director Krennic being part of the story, but the whole meeting at the Mathleen Divide just taking up important chunk of the first episode. So we just get to see like the horrid of high levels of capitalism transitioning into fascism, but more importantly, I think that, you know, once you start planning this out, you plan it out at a bunch of different levels. You're going to build army outside one of the cities. You're going to start the like disinformation campaign and all of these various things. And it is interesting that Dedra Meero is like, oh, but what about the rebels? And the Empire's like, you've already sort of done enough there, but you haven't sort of like made us impressed by that. And instead, she gets to pivot now to like the Empire's business and not necessarily the business of the rebellion. And I kind of think, given how Dedra Meero performed in the first season, if she was allowed to keep laser focus on stopping the rebellion, she might have been a little bit more of a formidable force.
Sure.
And I would have been a little scared.
She might have actually stopped them. You never know.
It would have been very scary.
Something to consider as we go along in this season is, would Dedra have been able to stop them if she were actually in charge?
Well, the whole idea of her having to pivot from looking for Axis to dealing with the business of the Empire and Gorman, I kind of think leads to your best line award. So our best line award in this series is called The Dead Speak, after my favorite crawl line from Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. It's the Dead Speak Best Line Award. Neil, what's your best line?
Well, it is delivered by Game of Thrones alumnus Anton Lesser, who is just fantastic in his scenes with both Ben Mendelsohn and Denisco. And he says, next time catch them first, then make them famous. Pretty fantastic little piece of advice. I too really enjoyed all of these just dripping with tension and evil charisma. All of these actors on this Empire side of things, Ben Mendelsohn, Denisco, Anton Lesser, just have such good evil charisma. Yeah. And I think it's you know, it's kind of great to spend a lot of time. That's one of the things I am definitely enjoying about Andor, is that because it's at least 12 episodes, we're getting to spend more time in some of these interesting spaces. And I think that's very cool.
There's some things that I think Disney did really effectively when it took over the Star Wars franchise. And don't kill me for this, but I do think like making the Empire a type that wasn't necessarily white and British, which it sort of was through the run of original content, but them making it sort of like this stick up your ass, but you sort of find that comforting sort of type,
sure,
has really been expanded in the Disney era to sort of show that. And then I also think that Disney, and especially Andor, has gone a long way into, in certain time periods, making the stormtroopers seem threatening again, because they're really not super threatening in the movies, I think, ever.
Because they have terrible aim.
They have terrible aim.
They actually do hit people in this show.
They do, and they're intimidating. And it only takes like 3 of them to face off against like the stolen TIE fighter at the beginning of the first episode, and it still feels like sort of a threat. They don't feel like bumbling. So Disney does some things well, even if you don't agree completely what they did with the entire franchise.
Sure.
Or
at the very least, Disney allowed Tony Gilroy to do some interesting things. Or Tony Gilroy did some things while Disney wasn't looking.
I think Disney made Darth Vader cooler, but that's something we'll talk about like later as we progress in our Star Wars journey, I am sure. The Dead Speak Best Line Award goes to Dedra. It's more than just a line, but it's a big one. Here we go. But when I say the word plan, that makes it sound optional, which is not the impression you should be taking away. The game ends now. You want Cereal in your life? You will think before you speak. I'll make sure he visits twice a month. I'll make sure he calls you. I'll guarantee a level of engagement, but will be inversely proportional to the volume of anxiety you generate in our lives. This is Dedra Mira's king moment, I think, or queen moment here in the episodes.
I mean, I love this entire sequence with her and Catherine Hunter. I mean, Catherine Hunter was such a memorable piece of that first season as Cyril's mother. She's just a nightmare. And honestly, one of the more highly anticipated things for me was how is Dedra going to deal with this dude's mom?
Yeah. And she did pretty easily.
She was amazing.
I want to give a lot of props here also to Genevieve O'Reilly, who is back at Mon Mothma, and I think doing really good subtle work in these first 3 episodes. But just below she was my runner-up for MVP.
She was also my runner-up for MVP.
And she's got a lot of good looks, but not a lot of great lines. Like every time I picked a Mon Mothma line, there was like a Luthen line next to it, and it was sort of like a dialogue. It wasn't a single line. So I just want to give some props to Genevieve O'Reilly, who will be back. We'll talk about her performance a lot this episode, but just so close to greatness here. I didn't want to bypass her entirely, especially her now viral dancing away the sads at the end of the episode.
Just vibing out while everything falls apart around her.
Which, you know, who among us hasn't occasionally just vibed out while everything is going on around her. Before we get into some of the lore, which unfortunately has nothing to do with the wedding, Neil, what did you think about that Chandrilan wedding ceremony, and especially Mon Mothma's, I think, interaction with her daughter, where she's like, you could not have to do this, and the daughter once again chooses tradition and conservatism.
Well, let me ask you this: all of these Chandrilan traditions that they show us, are these things that are canon from before or elsewhere in the Star Wars universe, or is this something that they have created within this show?
Chandrila has always been fancy. I don't think we've seen wedding ceremonies before. But obviously because Mon Mothma has been around for a while, she has always been from Chandrila, and Chandrila is, I believe, the first seat of the New Republic. Once they sort of
so it's a very wealthy planet, and I think that's honestly one of the coolest things about it is the way that the level of detail that they have given all of these different wedding things that they do, traditions, I guess, and the sort of level of lore building that they do around this one individual planet, which honestly does kind of feel unique to me in the context of both Star Wars movies and TV, because you think about, what are the cultures of the planets we know about in Star Wars? It's like, all right, well, there's the one with the Ewoks. Then there's the desert planet, and then the other desert planet, and then the desert planet where Jabba lives. And I don't feel like we get a sense of like what those cultures are like, like I don't feel like I ever considered what Huttese culture was like until I played Star Wars Outlaws and had to go spend time among the Hutts. Up until then it was just like, oh, those are the people that hang out with Jabba. No, apparently it's a whole culture. So I love this as an entry into like the Chandrilan world and their history, and they apparently have had a bunch of their relics stolen, and perfectly timed for Luthien to come along and be involved.
Well, and once we get to like the relic part, like that involves some nods to Knights of the Old Republic, so like some Old Republic sort of history. But it is sort of interesting. Chandrilla is one of the planets that like I would classify as like a fancy planet, and there's only like a few in Star Wars lore. There's Chandrilla, there's Alderaan, which obviously isn't around for too long, but we get to see I think some of it in Kenobi, which also takes place I believe in 4 BBY or maybe 5 BBY, so the year before this.
So that lonely rebellion is happening somewhere else.
Yeah, what is it? Admiral Holdo, the Laura Dern character. She's from a fancy planet called Gadalenta, I believe, that we learn about in like one of the novels. But that's sort of what brings her and Princess Leia together, is they both were like raised in fancy planets but have like class consciousness, which seems to be the difference between like Star Wars being on a fancy planet and being on like Tatooine. Is if you're on Tatooine, you have no choice but to think about class because you're in like an unyielding class structure. If you're in one of the fancy planets, you get to be like a political dissident and run off and join the rebellion, and sometimes your planet gets blown up.
Sure. And I also think from a television production standpoint, this is just a really fun setting, right? Like the costuming is awesome. It's very cool to imagine what the sort of rich halls of high society in the Star Wars universe are like. I love the robot DJ that they've got at the wedding. That thing is super cool. Why doesn't that exist in the real world? For weddings. I mean, respect to wedding DJs. They work hard for their money, I guess, but this guy's also pretty cool. I thought it's a very cool sequence, and I think gives us a lot more, insight into what Mon Mothma, how much she is sacrificing for the rebellion, right? It's not just moving money around. It's not just her political future, but she's basically now sort of sold her daughter off in an arranged marriage. I would assume in an effort to keep her safe once like shit hits the fan, right? Because I've seen Rogue One and the original Star Wars trilogy. I know where Mon Mothma ends up. She ends up living on a planet, living on Yavin, hanging out with the rebellion. So it's interesting to watch her navigate the sort of choppiest waters right before what I assume is, her having to like disappear from polite society. Yeah.
Then we have sort of the setup of Luthen Rail monitoring all the different radio signals to sort of like being at the center of the spider in the web, which I didn't appreciate until my rewatch, because they sort of bring it up here as like he's here to deal with Mon Mothma's problem. But on a rewatch and knowing sort of the arc of the whole season, I'm much more aware of Luthen's multitasking.
Oh, for sure.
I guess would be a way to put it.
Like when he's
this episode,
lightly interrogating the soldier guy who's like, "Oh, we're deploying next week." He's like, "Oh, where's everybody going?" Luthen. He's such a messy little drama lover, and it works out perfectly for his role in the rebellion.
All right, before we jump in to have some Storm thoughts, I do have a little bit of lore for you, Neil. This is going to be about the Cinar Corporation. So at the beginning of the episode, Andor is on that, sort of special mission to steal the TIE Avenger ship. And it says at the title when it begins, Cinar, Test Facility 73, which makes it sound like it's a planet, but it's not. It's a company. It is the military company that builds all the various TIE fighters and ships for the Galactic Empire. So that means that it has a bunch of weird backstory about different ships that it's built, especially things like the TIE Avenger, or actually especially TIE fighters in this time period in the Empire. Let me explain. So the 1994 video game X-Wing TIE Fighter, which was a sequel to the video game X-Wing, where basically you get to fly around in a TIE fighter, this time in first person. First introduced the TIE Avenger, which is the X-Wing or the TIE fighter that we see Andor steal. That's the official title for it. It looks vaguely similar. The TIE Avenger in Andor is a bit more pointy because they had the design influence by Kylo Ren's TIE Silencer, which is what he used in The Last Jedi, which has the real pointy wings. So they brought on the TIE Avenger here. It eventually didn't make like canon, and it didn't even make future TIE Fighter games because it was just like too powerful. Because essentially the TIE Avenger in the video game was a replacement for, they wanted to have Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, the TIE Advanced. But at that point, there was this idea in Lucasfilm that was just Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. It wasn't, they didn't make a bunch of those. So they made the TIE Avenger, which had a lot of different of the perks that Darth Vader's TIE Advanced would have. But then they're like, well, that's way too powered. If they could just make these, the Empire would be winning against the X-Wings anyway, because TIE Fighters don't have shields, don't have hyperdrive. These are both things that the TIE Avenger had. And they're like, that just makes it way too powerful. So that actually is worked, I think, into the canon of the story of this game. The TIE Avenger is great, but they spend a lot of money making it, and Cassian Andor steals it. And I think that's it. I think that's the end of the TIE Avenger program, because the next experimental TIE fighter they make in canon is the TIE Interceptor next year, BBY-3. And the TIE Interceptor is a modified version of a pointy-winged TIE fighter that was made for the Inquisitorius. Those are the Jedi hunters that are working with Darth Vader right now. But basically, it was a faster TIE fighter that had more powerful blasters, basically to keep up with the fact that the Rebellion is a bunch of different ships. Some of those ships can beat TIE fighters. See Luthen's lightsaber ship from Andor Season 1. Some of them can't. See, like, JUNKIE ships from the early Rebellion over in Star Wars Rebels at this time. So as the Rebels are becoming a Rebel fleet, which is eventually what we see in Star Wars Rogue One, they're getting more and more powerful starfighters, which means the TIE fighters are sometimes outmatched by the Rebel ships. So they need something faster. They sort of take this TIE Interceptor experimental thing that was being used by the Inquisitors, strip out a whole bunch of parts so they're cheaper to make, and they start rolling out TIE Interceptors. But they're still really expensive to make, so they're rolling them out very, very slowly. There isn't like a squadron of TIE Interceptors really until like Return of the Jedi. So that's what they're slowly rolling out. Meanwhile, as this is all happening, Grand Admiral Thrawn is in the Star Wars universe, and he is very, very mad that the Empire's fleet is just inadequate. So he develops the plans for something he calls the TIE Defender. This is a very wacky looking TIE fighter where it has like the center ball, and then it has 3 little batches of wings all around it. But these also have like shields and hyperdrives. They are super powerful. They're much like the TIE Avenger. But it isn't until BBY-2 that Thrawn gets to manufacture some of these TIE Avengers on the planet Lothal, because in BBY-2, the Emperor is mad that Krennic is not making Project Stardust moving along a little faster. So he diverts some of the funding to the Death Star over to Thrawn and allow him to make some experimental TIE Defenders. Thanks to the Star Wars Rebels crew, those plans sort of get derailed and the TIE Defender is never put into mass production. But this is all of these TIE fighters are made by the CNR Corporation, just with plans from different people. So this is the sort of like arms race that's happening to the Empire. And I think we have Cassian Andor and Luthen Rail to thank here, and Porco, the maybe sacrifice of Porco, to stopping the TIE Avenger from being made at all.
Interesting. And I also love when Star Wars sort of touches on this kind of stuff, right? This is one of 2 reasons why I'm, to this day, a defender of the Canto Bight sequence in The Last Jedi. One is because the Ryan Johnson redoing the shot from 1927's Wings, which is amazing. And then 2 is this idea that when they meet Benicio del Toro's character and he sort of awakens Finn to the notion that there are like arms dealers and arms companies, like probably the Sinar Corporation, who supply both sides, right? And profit no matter what. And I feel like this sort of scratches at that same, not quite as directly, but scratches in that same direction of reminding us that not only is this an allegory for like rebellion against imperialism, and we've got all kinds of very easily tieable reference points to existing culture. There's also a galactic military industrial complex that is actively profiting off of all of this, probably to the tune of many, many billions of credits for one TIE Avenger that Cassian just straight up steals, which is great.
Which just steals.
Steal their toys, blow up their shit.
Fantastic. I think that's going to do it for the first batch of episodes here in the call.
Oh, wait, we have one more corner to do.
Oh, which corner did I
forget? If you like this, then try. We haven't done that one yet.
This is super important to do in the column. Thank you so much, Neil. I think this is a great situation to look at Andor and be like, hey, if you like this type of show, try something else, because you know what, if you like space wizards wielding lightsabers, there's a ton of other Star Wars for you. If you like this flavor of Star Wars, there isn't that much other media out there, this particular flavor of Star Wars. So I thought Neil and I could recommend to you some other pop culture that you might like if you like these episodes of Andor. Neil, what do you have to recommend for people?
Well, I brought a film that you can see, a 2006 film. Actually, I should look up where you can stream this one, because it's, I bet, pretty streamable. It is a Werner Herzog movie. It stars Christian Bale. We got a lot of Christian Bale synergy on our pods this month. It is called Rescue Dawn. It is about a pilot who gets shot down and in the Vietnam War, and it becomes a prisoner of war. It's not as funny as The Plight of the Moron Brigade here in Andor. Far more serious, because it is it's adapted from a true story, but it's a great Christian Bale performance. It's a really interesting performance about being sort of stranded as a prisoner amongst the enemy, and how one tries to figure out how to get out of said situation. And I think it's pretty relevant if you're itching to watch a good war movie after Andor.
Yeah, no, definitely. Good news. Mine also has.
Oh, it's streaming on Pluto TV. Sorry. Last point about Rescue Dawn.
Oh, perfect.
Shout out.
I think
Pluto.
Mine is also streaming on Pluto TV.
Hell
so
yeah.
we'll stick with that. I'm going to recommend Deep Space Nine season 6. Now, this is when television had proper seasons. So there's 26 episodes. And you might be like, Dave, I don't know about that. Okay, here's the thing. Deep Space Nine, it's a Star Trek show. And I would recommend at least starting season 6, because much like Andor is doing batch releases here, the first 6 episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine are serialized. They tell one story where the Dominion War has started, which they'll vaguely explain. It is serialized, but it's also aired in 1997. So I do think you could jump on here and sort of get the flow of what's going on. Deep Space Nine is the name of a space station, and they are on the frontier of a war. And at the beginning of season 6, the first 6-episode arc is the Dominion comes, takes over the space station from the Federation. The Federation has to flee. And then Captain Sisko, our protagonist, comes up with a plan to retake Deep Space Nine. But it involves a crash landing on a planet where they encounter a band of, they think are freedom fighters, but are actually fighters for the other side of the Dominion War. It involves some pretty good politics. And then, if you like that 6-episode batch, a lot of people think that the 19th episode of the season, which still takes place during the Dominion War, it's called In the Pale Moonlight, might be the best episode of Deep Space Nine, because it is a politically complex one where the captain has to wrestle with whether or not to fake evidence to draw another species into the war. And it would be fake evidence, but he's also pretty sure it's true. That sort of like political complexity would definitely show up in the Pale Moonlight. Again, I think all of season 6 is great. Does it have episodes where Captain Bashir is the lounge singer in the holodeck? Yeah, it's a show from 1997. But maybe that'll scratch your itch of some goofiness amongst the war stories. Deep Space Nine season 6, highly recommend if you like these episodes of Andor. All right, now I think we're done with the calm parts. If you aren't interested in seeing what's in the storm, I understand. We will see you next Wednesday as we will cover the next 3 episodes that take place in BBY2. Otherwise, come with me into the storm. All right, Neil, weird topics for the storm, but we're definitely going to end with Neil question time, so you can expand this for future questions or for future storms if you want. I did want to talk about 2 things specific to this episode.
All right.
We get the most world building done on Mina Rao, the wheat planet, to sort of see how that works, which I think is ultimately interesting because it's where B2 Emo, Bix and Andor's child ultimately end up. Like canonically,
Sure.
that's where we think they end up, sort of harvesting wheat. So here I think
In
is a
B2
good...
Emo's case, very sad.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably lives a pretty good life.
Yellow triangle droid friend. It's
Yeah,
like happily chasing a droid.
He lives an ultimately good life, but he never gets to say goodbye to Cassian.
I think it's sad he never gets to say goodbye to Cassian. I think it is happy that he gets to raise Cassian's child. I think B2 Emo would be happy about that. Cassian never gets to meet his child, let alone say goodbye to his child.
That's true.
Which we will talk about a little bit, but I also think that, you know, we might talk about this a little bit in season 4, but I don't think we necessarily have to go all the way here because I think this is an interesting spot of, do you ever want to return to Mina Rao in Star Wars canon?
I mean, I think that's a difficult choice because if you do, then you have to answer questions like, where's Bix? Where's Cassian's child? Where's B2 Emo now? It's probably better to just leave it, right? Because, okay, so we know Mina Rao is not a planet that gets blown up by the Death Star, right? Because we have the Death Star's hit list at this point. So we just have to assume that everything goes fine on that planet. Until, I guess, they have to start their own rebellion. Then again, they seem pretty isolated, right? Like when the Empire isn't showing up for an audit, they don't seem to be there at all. So maybe eventually the Empire becomes so preoccupied with what's going on elsewhere in the galaxy that they just leave this planet alone. And it lives out its life peacefully harvesting wheat.
Yeah,
lots and lots of wheat.
Lots and lots of wheat. I would hope that, yes, the child, I mean, I think ultimately Cassian would also hope this, but the child doesn't need to fight.
Sure.
So,
and I guess the years don't line up perfectly for that child to be Poe Dameron. Unfortunately,
no.
for fans who want it to be so, and for some reason only like 5 Latino characters in Star Wars.
We do know Poe Dameron's parents from other canon material.
Sure.
That mostly takes place around the Battle of Endor. I'm more interested in that, like, this kid lives to see the First Order.
Sure.
Like,
where is this kid now? Could this kid have met Poe Dameron? Maybe.
This kid could definitely have met Poe Dameron.
They could have been friends at the Academy, the Rebellion Academy. Do they have the Rebels have a military school at that point?
Oh, no, because Mon Mothma disbands the military the second there's a new republic. That's why Leia has to create the resistance, is because there is no military when the First Order shows up. Because peace. Because in order to like balance out what the Empire did, she's like, first of all, no military. Instead of the Empire, which was one just gigantic military, she's like, none of that. which does leave them vulnerable.
Yeah, I
But,
mean, in theory,
Poe
it's a
Dameron-
lovely idea, but in
Yeah.
practicality, it also allowed the First Order to redevelop their nuclear program.
I mean, to be fair with the Rise of Skywalker, it does give with like sort of its fleet of thousands at the end, the idea that we didn't need a military if we were just, be solid with each other.
Sure.
So I understand it. I like the sort of defund the police side of the sequel trilogy. It didn't work out so well. Lots of planets got blown up, but I understand. I understand where Mon Mothma is coming from.
At least they tried
in
it.
the years between trilogies. And then also I wanted to tip a hat. This is the final appearance of Edie Karn, Cyril's mother, who you pointed out, fantastic performance that carried over from season 1. But I really thought she was going to show up here. And the way things turned out for Cyril, I think this might be it for her.
Yeah.
What a character.
But what a great sequence to go out on. And I just, it's again, the function of having a few more episodes that we get this, what would otherwise potentially be a sort of not moving the plot forward kind of scene, right? Like they could have just yada over the relationship between Deirdre and Cyril's mother, but no, like it's perfect to be able to just spend this social time with them and let Deirdre have this moment of expressing her power toward essentially her mother-in-law, I guess. I don't know how marriages work on what planet are they on? They're on
Coruscant. They're on Coruscant.
So maybe there's like a domestic partnership law where if you're together for long enough, then you're just married on Coruscant. That sounds like something Coruscant would do.
Well, I mean, they're definitely still like keeping it secret, right? For the most part.
Sure.
Doesn't they have to just sort of like do everything, not let people know they're dating, but they have let Edie sort of know. But I do appreciate this because she was such a perfect villain for season 1 Cyril. It would have been serviceable, but I think done a disservice to both the mother character and to the Dedra character if it was more like a Cyril got handed off and not that Dedra actively took Cyril away from his mom.
Yep.
I think that makes the characters so much more interesting.
Forceful takeover of Cyril's domination.
Exactly. It means that she actually wants to be with him instead of just, they trauma bonded once, like the two lead characters in Speed. But anyway, that's all the things I wanted to highlight from these first 3 episodes. I do think in season 2, these first 3 are sort of like a lot of table setting for the fantastic stuff we have coming out. And it was hard to sort of group them together in one movie. But Neil, do you have any questions about this episode, Storm, production, anything that I could try to illuminate for you?
I mean, a couple of little things, I suppose. One that I may have already answered for myself, which is what year does The Mandalorian take place compared to this? And I did eventually find on this Star Wars Wikipedia the timeline of events, which I think will be very helpful because this is something that I get confused with all these damned Star Wars TV shows, all sort of happening in this space between, right? It's like between Rogue One, and obviously we know we're going to sort of end at Rogue One, but also after Revenge of the Sith, right? That was the 3rd prequel. That's the one. So it's kind of hard to keep track. So I did look up, and it appears as if the bounty for the child in Mandalorian went out in 9 ABY. So that is after this.
Yes.
Right? Because this is a BCAC thing. So
This is
that is
13 years after
13 years later. So old Din Djarin, not even wearing his helmet yet, probably still an orphan child, right? I assume he's been maybe picked up already off of Mandalore, but he has not quite become the warrior we know him to be. later. And I don't even think Baby Grogu is around yet. Then again, we don't really know how old that little guy is. So
Baby Grogu is definitely around. We see him rescued from the Jedi Temple during Order 66.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's around, kicking around somewhere.
And Din Djarin also definitely around. Also already a Mandalorian because he was rescued from B2 battle droids, which would be from the Clone Wars.
Okay. He's, I guess, much older than I would have thought. 13 years from where we meet him in The Mandalorian would put him in like his teens. But maybe,
I mean, I think he would be in his teens, but he was like 9 or 10 when he was rescued from the Mandalorian.
Okay. All right. So they're out there somewhere. And, eventually we're going to catch back up with them in a movie, I'm told. But that is much further in the future, and I don't think we'll have much relevance. I mean, the kind of nice part about Andor is that they can do a lot of stuff in here, and the only canon that they're really like truly beholden to is Rogue One. Right? Like they just got to get these characters to Rogue One, and obviously you can't kill off Mon Mothma because she's in the movies after that. But
right,
there must be some comfort in that for Tony Gilroy to be able to sort of chart his own path with this story.
Well, we'll talk about this. Like he does overwrite the K2SO.
Yeah, I know about that one where he's just like, I don't fucking care.
Right.
And that's fair because, we covered Rogue One pretty closely. I went to the junket. And at that point, everybody knew that Tony Gilroy did a significant amount of work, both rewriting and maybe even redirecting portions of that movie. So if this part of the Star Wars story belongs to anyone, it's definitely him. And that includes Rogue One.
The other interesting thing that's I guess I would put in spoilers because again, some people haven't watched Rebels, but the idea that like Dedra refers to Luthen as Axis has always been super interesting to me because by the time we get to Rogue One, Cassian is using the title Fulcrum, which is like a point on an axis that sort of tips the scale, which I think is like a fun code name. But Cassian actually is one of several people who use the code name Fulcrum. He doesn't start using it until BBY2. Here in BBY4, Fulcrum is an operative of Bail Organa named Ahsoka Tano is currently our Fulcrum in this time period in Star Wars. So you are right in the sense that in this timeline, everybody's here. This is what I will challenge to do for the Storm segment. Here is where I will put other things happening this BBY because I don't know what things I'm going to need spoiled, but I do think it's interesting if like you're trying to connect all the different Star Wars stories to sort of put this on a timeline with all the other fantasy shit that's happening elsewhere in the canonical universe. So I will put this BBY in canon. And luckily, Neo, we're on video. I've had this here, my Star Wars Timelines book.
Oh my God.
Just off to the side, just in case.
Hell yeah.
And there's like 4 pages on 4 BBY. There's got to be more once we get to 3 BBY. So I cannot wait to go deeper with you on Star Wars, on Andor, in the Storm section, starting next week or continuing next week. Next Wednesday, we'll be back to talk about Andor Season 2, episodes 4 through 6. Until then, Neil, what's your message for the people out there?
Rage against the Empire at all times. Plan your rebellion carefully.
That's right. Mine's going to be Remember Porco.
Oh, Porco.